Welcome back to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is all going to be about Fibonacci and Fibs and how we use this amazing tool to set our profit targets and to see sometimes to what level the markets will pull back to. So let's get straight into it. I've got it here on the screen. I've got the Fibonacci. And I just want to go to the settings quickly, and you guys can also write this down, the levels that we will be using. So the levels that we normally use is the 21.40% pullback, the 38.20% pullback, the 50% pullback, and then your 618 pullback, your 786 pullback, and I like to just have the 88.60 pullback, and then obviously you get your 100% pullback. For the extension, you can put in your minus your 27% extension, and then also your 6180% extension, and sometimes you will get your 161 extension, 161% extension. So those are the levels that we will be using. Let me just get that back on the. So basically, let's just get our drawing tool out here as well. So let's say, for instance, you get this impulse move up, and what will normally happen is that the market will correct to one of these levels over here. So sometimes if the correction is not very shallow, it will normally pull back to this level, and sometimes to this level. And the more deeper correction can go to the 50%, the 61%, 61% pullback, and sometimes even it will pull as deep as the 78 and 88% pullbacks. So our main what we use the Fibonacci for is actually not the pullbacks. I mean, it is nice to know to see to where the markets do pull back, but why we do use the Fibonacci is to calculate our profit targets. And our profit targets, we will always work out our risk to reward and calculate our profit target to the 27% extension. So what that means is, so let's say, for example, you get a move like this. This is your impulse up, and then you get a correction, something that does this, and then you trade this trade and you take the breakout over there. Don't worry about the strategy now. I'm just showing you an example. So let's say for the purpose of this example, we take the trade right on the 61.80%, and our stop loss, let's go 88% pullback will be our stop loss. Then we will work out our profit target to the 27% extension. So basically, this will be our rewards, and this would be our risk. So if I can just show you, let's take this risk to reward tool that I've got over here, and we took it there, let's say there, and our stop loss was on the 88%. Let me just get that properly. Okay, like that. And our profit target is the 27%. So basically, as you can see then, on this specific example, our risk to rewards would have been 4.88, which is very good. If you take it, if you get 10 trades like this a year, it's 48% return. So say for I personally do not take trades that I don't get at least a 1.5 risk to reward. If it's below 1.5 risk to reward, I'm not interested in taking the trade, and it's just not worth taking the trade. But anything above 1.5 is pretty good, and if you go above 2 and 3, then it becomes very good. So this is the main reason we use the Fibonacci, is to work out our profit target. And I will show you some examples in the chart, and it's sometimes uncanny to just how good this works. I personally have tested this on at least a lot of hours of testing. I did myself over 1,000 examples, and it's uncanny of how sometimes this will go to the pip to our target, and then it will reverse or make a correction again. So out of 1,000, I would say that I tested, this profit target gets hit between 80 and 90% of the time. So it's quite a very good indication to gauge where to put your profit target when you take a trade. So there is some rules that you guys can also write down. I'll put it on the screen as well for you now, so you can just see what the rules is for fibs that we use. So rule number 1 is we only fib in the direction of the trend. And then rule number 2 is we only fib the impulse. Rule number 3, remember we discussed this in the previous lesson. If it breaks the trend line, you have to fib the whole move. The whole move becomes one impulse. Remember we discussed that. And then if it breaks the low, or if you're looking for a downside, it breaks the high, then the fib it becomes invalid. It's not longer valid. So I'll also show you what I mean by that in the charts in a second, but I'm just quickly going to get those rules on the screen for you, and then for you guys to write them down. So here's the rule, guys. I'll just leave this on for a few seconds. You can pause this and write down the rules for fibs, and then we will go into the charts, and I'll show you exactly what we mean by all these rules, and show you some examples of how amazing the Fibonacci to 27% target actually works. So if you've written that down, good. Let's continue. So we might as well start on a monthly time frame, and let's just take this off, and let's move this charts over a bit. Okay, let's go here, and let's say that this didn't exist yet. So let's say that was it. So this is obviously impulse down, and you can see it's the trend is down. So what we would do is, if we would have fibbed this whole impulse move down like this, and just look, it hit the 27% extension. So here was our impulse move down, this was our little correction, and it just shot down to the 27% extension. So then if we continue, and remember we only fib the last impulse. So if you wanted to trade this down, then you would have flipped this move, and then this didn't quite reach the 27%. If you look at the structure, and remember, our next rule is if it breaks the trend, you have to flip the whole move. So this is what we mean by when it breaks a trend, you have to flip the whole move. This becomes one impulse move, and this becomes the correction. So, sorry, this becomes the impulse move, and this becomes the correction. So there we had a contracting flat, and we didn't quite hit the target this time. But if you look at the structure, and we will discuss this in much later depth, and say for instance you took the trade there, once this breaks this bottom here and you see divergence, you know that okay, there is a possibility that this will reverse. So what you will normally do is you would move your stop loss to break even or just a little bit of profit, and then when it reverses it will take you out for break even. That's a very safe rule, how to guard yourself from unnecessary losses, and I do this a lot in my trading, and it has helped me tremendously. So say for instance I take 10 trades, out of those, let's say out of those 10, I'm just taking an example, maybe 3 were break even and 3 were wins. So if I didn't move those trades to break even, I would have had only 3 wins, and then I would have had 7 losses instead of 3 wins, 3 break evens, and only 4 losses. So you get my point. So let's continue. So what we have now is we saw this. Remember, this is a monthly time frame, so we'll still go to other time frames and show you. We broke the trend, so this whole piece becomes one piece. And what you would do then, let's compress this a little bit down. You would flip this whole move. So this whole move is currently the impulse move. Let's get off MACD, back on the screen. So what we know is that there is a chance in the future that this might make a correction, a big correction like this, and that this will go all the way to the 27% extension, depending on what type of structure we look. If we look at an ABC, and it's only your ABC structures that normally doesn't have the steam to get to your 27% extension. But your extension, your 27% target is way down here. So let's go to the other time frames, and I'll just demonstrate how you would go about it on the other time frames. So let's go here. Let's try and get as much charts as possible. Okay, let's start over here. So here we had this impulse, and then we had this correction over here, and then we had this next impulse move up. So we would have pulled our fib from here to here, and look, our 27% extension got hit, and not long after that it reversed. And then let's take this off. What do we know? What happened here? We broke the trend, so we flipped this whole piece over here. This whole piece becomes one piece. We flip that. Then you would see that it almost hit our 27% extension, but if we go in the future, didn't quite hit it, and we actually didn't have our ABC move. But what happens now is, if we compress this a little bit more, we see that it actually forming a much bigger correction. So this, we can see, broke the trend, so this whole piece becomes one piece. So what you would have done then is you would have flipped this whole move up like this. And if we do, say for instance, we'll probably get something like this, goes up here, comes back down, and then it will go up. So let's go to the lower time frames. In the lower time frames, you'll see plenty of examples. I just need to delete this one we pulled here on the weekly. Let's go to the daily. And let's take a few examples. So this is going to be a pretty short lesson, because flips are basically the easiest scenario of this whole trading theory of ours. Okay, I think let's just get the top or the bottom. This should be enough. Okay. Yep. Let's compress it a little bit more. There we go. So we saw here this whole move up. Let's actually start and start here at the bottom so you guys can see properly. Okay, so first we had this move, and then we had this correction and this next up move. So then we flipped this, and you guys can go and test this for yourself on a bunch of charts, and you'll actually see how good it works. There we hit our 27% target. If you take the next impulse, it was that one over there. Well, did we break the trend? Let's see here. I think we actually did break the trends. So what you do then is you flip this whole move over here. So this would have been your impulse correction, and this would have went to your profit target. Okay, then let's get the next impulse. And I actually think it is this one over here. Let's just see. Yep. So you could have pulled. There's your proper correction. Just put it properly here. There. So here was your next impulse move up. There were your correction. Clear, a very easy correction to have traded. And as you can see, this actually went straight to the 61% extension. Let me just show you guys how many pips that were. If we measure this, 1,200 pips to your profit target would have been a very cool 748 pips. So as you can see, is trading in the longer time frames, you can, and using the daily impulses and trading this on a daily, you can make so many pips. It's not even funny. So let's go further. So what we've got here currently, let's pull this and see if we have to flip this whole move. And yes, so we broke this trend line. This whole piece becomes one piece. So we will pull your fib. You will flip this whole move, and let's see what happened. Actually, let's compress this and see better what's going on here. There we go. Amazing. I mean, look, there we had this if you start to recognize these patterns, you would have seen that this was a contracting flat, and then we could have actually have traded, got in the trade right there, and as you can see, it went to the 27% extension target. It almost actually went to the 61% extension target. So let's just see how many pips that was. I mean, I said we could have actually have gotten in from there to there. Once again, 1,134 pips. So let's continue. And there we actually in this scenario right now that once again we broke it, and now we flipped this whole move. And I think this is currently where we're at. We still between these two, the low and the high, so everything inside here will be classified as a correction. And oh no, we actually broke the top. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Now just let's get back to it. Broke the top, almost went to our 27% extension, but not quite. And we still I just want to see what structure we actually had here. And yeah, it's one of those rare cases that this were ABC structure and we actually continue to go down. Okay, let's start here at this top and then let's measure from here. So here we started to form a downtrend, and if we pull off fibs, could have used this down impulse. Here we had quite a deep correction. As you can see, this correction actually pulled all the way back to your 78%, and then eventually pulled that properly. We broke it and we went to our 27% extension. Once again, very good pips that would have been, you could have gotten. Once again, 990 pips. So let's continue, and then our next impulse would have been this impulse over here. Don't worry if you button into to identify your impulses yet. We will still, in later lessons, I'll show you exactly how to identify what is a proper impulse. But I'm sure you guys starting to get my point of view what actually an impulse is. If you look at impulse, is a very explosive move to the downside. And even if you look at your MACD, you will see that the MACD will also be able to tell you what exactly is an impulse. I mean, look how big this MACD is. and how explosive it went to the, you know, so it's explosive, fast move to the downside. If that can give you a clear indication of identifying the impulse, and look how big that is. So one thing that you'll also notice, when we're in a correction phase, this MACD will be close to the middle, to your 0. So let's flip this, and I just want to see what structure we actually had, and this is what we had. So we had a running flat here, and I know some traders that they absolutely hate running flats, because running flats is probably the most difficult correction pattern to trade. But I mean, if you practice to trade them, they don't become so daunting, and they actually become quite easy to recognize after a while and trade them. So one thing I just want to say as well is, in a running flat, this is also where some traders get confused. In a running flat correction that breaks this low over here, you're not going to fib it from there to there. You actually, when it breaks the low, you will fib it to there. So what I mean is, you will actually fib it right to there, and then you will trade it to the 27% extension. So there where we draw that properly. There was your running flat, and you could have even have gotten in right there, and we went straight to the 27% extension. Also, we even went to the 61% extension. So let's continue with the charts, and I'm sure you guys starting to see the value of how often this 27% extension target gets hit. So here we had this impulse move down, and then we had this little correction. So let's flip this. See here, just want to show you, broke the trend, so we flipped this whole move. Remember, we only flip the last impulse, and unless it breaks a trend. So yeah, could have gotten in there, and lo and behold, our 27% target got hit. And here it started to make a bigger correction or a reversal. Let's just see what happened here. I have to compress this so we can see. Yeah, so pull this, so this, you would have flipped this whole move. Let's flip this whole move down to here, and as you can see, remember, the rare case, it won't go to the 27% extension if you get a ABC structure, and that's exactly what happened here. You'll still learn what an ABC structure looks like, and when you saw this, you would have said, hey, okay, let's say for instance, let's get this trade, boom. Let's say you got in there and you started to see this, then you could have, when you see this, you know that, okay, we might be forming an ABC structure, and it won't get to our 27% target. So when we take a trade, we want to see this go explosively to our 27% target. I mean, explosively like that. And if it doesn't do that, you can almost guarantee that you're going to get you'll have divergence, and you're going to get an ABC structure. And once it breaks this low and it reverses, you can already start to get out of the trade, and you would have still made some good profit. If I can just show you here, let's say we got in there, I said, and going down. You could have still, I mean, made 625 pips if you traded this on the long time frame. So let's delete this and go to okay, so I haven't yet come across to on this chart where the fib will no longer be valid, so I'm just going to show you on here. Let's say an example on here. So let's say, for instance, we got this impulse and we fib this move. Let me just pull a line here. So this is your impulse, and then you started to form the correction, and you're waiting now to trade it to the next 27% extension. But instead you got something that looked like this, and then something like this, and then we actually broke this low. We broke the 100% extension. So when this happens, this fib is no longer valid, and you can't look for the next trade up. So that's one of the rules that I meant, is if you break the low in an uptrend, in an up impulse, then this fib will no longer become valid. And then let me just pull a down fib and show you the other scenario. Let's say you got an impulse move down. So you got this impulse move down, and you want to trade it to this 27% extension, but instead this happened. And we broke the top on the down impulse. Then this fib will no longer be valid, and you can't look for the next move down. So just remember that rule. Let's go to our 4 hour and see some examples on our 4 hour. Let's just get somewhere where we can start from the top. This looked like a very good downtrend, so we'll get to yeah, let's take it from right over there. Let's take this off, not to confuse anyone. Okay, so basically we had this first down impulse, and then we had another running flat. So then we would have fibbed this. Remember what I said, we don't fib it. Sorry, let me just compress this so I can get to the top there. Get off Fibonacci tool. We don't fib it to there, we fib a running flat to there. And then as you can see, what happened is we actually went straight to our 27% target. This actually went to the 61% target. So what you can basically do is, you don't always have to set your targets to the 27% extension. What you can do is you can see how aggressive this goes, and if you see it goes past the 27% extension, you can move your stop loss to there and try to trade it, you know, to your 61% extension target. So look here was our next impulse move down. Let's flip that properly. There was our impulse, there was our correction, and as you see, eventually it did get to our 27% target. Let's continue down. You can have put on a second trade. when it started to drag out like this. So there you had this impulse move, this correction, and there we went. Look at this, we went to our profit target, to the pip, and then it reversed. So you won't believe how many times I've seen this happen, that it goes to exact to the pip, to our 27% target, and then reverses to the upside. So let's go further. Let's see here. We are next. So if we would have pulled our trend line, then it shows us that we would have flipped this whole move. And let's see if this got to our profit target. And look at that. Lo and behold, hit our profit target. So I think you guys get the point of how valuable the fib is. I mean, you can go and test this for yourself on all time frames, on all currencies, and you will see how amazing this works. I'm just going to do this last bit on the 1 hour, and then we can basically call it quits for this lesson. So let's start at this top. Let me compress this a bit more. There we had that impulse move, and look, let me just show you. There's the impulse move. There we had this correction, and eventually, when you see something like this, you can put on a trade there, and you can put on a second trade there. And look what happened. Went to up. It actually went. This one actually went to this 1618. So you guys can see how amazing the Fibonacci tool works, and indicating to us where our profit target is. So that's it for lesson number 3. Stay tuned for lesson number 4.